The Atlantic Ocean was a placid, deceptive mirror reflecting the bruised sky. Aboard the Thor, the atmosphere was anything but calm. This wasn't just another submarine mission. This was a record attempt. They were aiming for the deepest point in the Bermuda Triangle, the fault of MENDAY. The doctor, perched on a folding chair in the cramped control room, surveyed the banks of dials and blinking lights with a childlike fascination. Louisa, his ever-practical companion, checked her watch. "Are you sure about this, Doctor? The Bermuda Triangle? Fault lines under the ocean? It sounds like a recipe for disaster." The doctor grinned, his eyes gleaming. "Disaster, Louisa? Or adventure? Think of the possibilities. Unexplored depths. Pressure beyond imagining." He trailed off, lost in his own fantastical musings. Captain Eva Rostova, a woman forged in the crucible of the Russian Navy, addressed them with a steely gaze. "Dr. Louisa, while I appreciate your, shall we say, unique perspective, understand this is a scientific mission. We are here to prove the viability of the Thor and the limits of human endurance." The Thor, a nuclear-powered marvel, was more than just a submarine. It was a self-contained ecosystem. Its advanced hull could withstand pressures that would crush ordinary vessels. Its mission, to plumb the depths of the fault of MENDAY and return. As the Thor plunged deeper, the silence was broken only by the hum of the engines and the crackle of static on the comms system. Louisa fiddled with her tablet, attempting to get a signal. Still nothing. "The pressure is interfering with the transmission. We're truly cut off down here." Suddenly, the Thor lurched violently. Alarms blared. Red lights pulsed. "What was that?" Rostova barked, her voice tighter now. "Sonar is picking up something," Lieutenant Volkov reported, his face pale. "Unidentified mass, directly ahead. It's enormous." Before anyone could react, the Thor was swallowed whole. The lights flickered, died, and plunged them into absolute darkness. When the emergency lights finally flickered to life, they revealed a scene of utter devastation. Wires hung like macabre vines. Consoles were shattered, and the crew were scrambling to their feet, disoriented and bruised. "Report," Rostova yelled over the chaos. "Hull integrity compromised," Volkov choked out. "We're taking on water." The doctor, however, was staring upwards, his mouth agape. Above them, shimmering and ethereal, was a vast cloud of glowing gas, bathing the cavern in an otherworldly light. "Where are we?" Louisa whispered, awestruck. Then, they heard it, a guttural roar, followed by the scraping of metal on metal. Figures emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, clad in ornate armor. They carried weapons that hummed with an energy that made the doctor's sonic screwdriver twitch in his pocket. "Suranians," one of the crew whispered in terror. "They're real." Zor, the leader of the Suranians, stepped forward. His face was hard, his eyes cold and calculating. "Welcome, surface dwellers. You have trespassed into the realm of Saran. Your vessel is ours." The Suranians herded the crew towards a central chamber, a vast, echoing space filled with strange machinery and writhing, bioluminescent plants. The doctor, observing everything with a keen eye, noticed that the glowing cloud seemed to be dimming, casting longer and more ominous shadows. Zor explained their dire situation. The cloud, the source of all light and energy in Saran, was failing. Their world was slowly dying. He had discovered the Thor, a vessel from the surface world, armed with weapons of incredible power, Polaris missiles. "With these missiles," Zor declared, his voice laced with desperation, "we will conquer your surface world and claim its resources to save our people." He turned to the doctor, a flicker of intelligence in his cold eyes. "You are a scientist. You understand the technology. You will help us reprogram these missiles." The doctor, of course, refused. He would never condone such destruction. Zor's gaze shifted to Louisa. "Perhaps," he said, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "A little persuasion is in order." Two Suranian guards seized her, holding her roughly. "Doctor," Louisa pleaded, her voice tight with fear. The doctor's face hardened. He hated being manipulated. "You leave her alone." Zor ignored him. "Her survival depends on your cooperation, Doctor. The choice is yours." The pressure was immense. Louisa's life hung in the balance. He had to buy time. "All right," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I'll help you. But I need time. And access to your technology." He knew he was walking a tightrope. One wrong move, and everything would come crashing down. As the doctor was forced to examine the Polaris missiles, he noticed something strange about the Sirenians' technology. It was antiquated, almost rudimentary. They had clearly scavenged and repurposed technology from the surface world, but their understanding of it was limited. Meanwhile, Louisa was being held captive in a crude cell. She was terrified, but also determined. She had to find a way to escape and warn the others. Suddenly, the bars of her cell shimmered and dissolved. Standing before her was a figure unlike any she had ever seen. It was humanoid, but with iridescent skin and webbed hands and feet. It resembled a merman, but with an air of quiet dignity. "I am Nephus, of the Trell," the creature said, his voice a melodic whisper. "I have come to help you." Nephus explained that the Trell, a race of aquatic humanoids native to Saran, were being enslaved by the Sirenians. They were forced to work in the mines, harvesting the energy crystals that powered their technology. Zor controlled the Trell through a network of mind control transmitters. "The Sirenians are parasites," Nephus said, his eyes burning with anger. "They have stolen our world and enslaved our people." He had seen the spark of defiance in Louisa's eyes. He knew she could help him. The doctor, meanwhile, had discovered the location of the mind control transmitter. It was a massive device, pulsing with a dark energy, located in the heart of the Sirenian citadel. He knew that if he could destroy it, he could break Zor's hold on the Trell. He needed Nephus, and Nephus needed him. Their alliance was the only hope for Saran. The doctor and Nephus orchestrated their rebellion with meticulous care. Nephus, with his knowledge of the Sirenian tunnels, led the doctor to the transmitter. Louisa, meanwhile, worked with the remaining crew of the Thor, sabotaging the Sirenian defenses from within. The assault on the transmitter was brutal. Sirenian guards poured in from all sides, but the Trell, freed from Zor's control, fought with a ferocity born of centuries of oppression. The doctor, armed with his sonic screwdriver, disabled the transmitter piece by piece, the device fizzing and sparking as he worked. As the last connection was severed, a wave of relief washed over the Trell. Their minds were their own again. Zor, enraged by the rebellion, confronted the doctor. He raised his weapon, ready to strike, but Nephus intervened, his trident flashing in the artificial light. The two leaders clashed in a desperate struggle. Finally, with a surge of strength, Nephus plunged his trident into Zor's chest. The Sirenian leader collapsed, his reign of terror finally over. With Zor defeated and the Trell liberated, the doctor and Louisa helped the Thor's crew repair the submarine. The Sirenians who remained were demoralized and disoriented, their society crumbling around them. Nephus, now a leader among his people, promised to help the Thor return to the surface. He guided them through the treacherous tunnels, avoiding the collapsed sections and the lurking dangers. Finally, they reached the fault of MENDAY. The Thor rose through the water, breaking the surface with a roar. The salt spray stung their faces, the sun warm on their skin. They were home. Captain Rostova signaled for assistance. The Thor's incredible voyage into the depths of the ocean, and the world beneath, would soon become legendary. As they waited for rescue, the doctor looked out at the vast expanse of the ocean. He knew that the world was full of wonders and dangers, waiting to be discovered. His adventures, he knew, were far from over. Louisa, standing beside him, smiled. Another day, another world saved. "Doctor, what's next?" The doctor grinned, his eyes twinkling. "Who knows, Louisa? The universe is a vast and mysterious place. There's always another adventure waiting just around the corner."